Hey, and welcome back to the channel. It is cold, y'all. I got my coffee, and if you've been with me for some time, you know I usually drink tea, but it is cold. I got my beanie on, and I'm here to talk to you mamas about building a preschool routine with me. Grab you a pen, grab you some paper, and your favorite beverage, and let's get started. Hey you, if you hit that play button for the very first time, welcome to the channel. I'm Tasha. This is Tasha Pivots, where we talk about all things mamahood and homeschool and how I'm pivoting through this journey. And like the introduction, I want to build a preschool routine with you, with me. So let's do it. I'm going to be looking down. I've got some notes here. And when I first started thinking about this, I recognized with my oldest daughter, I just kind of went by the seat of my pants with preschool. I just started, she wanted to read, I would read. We would do art, we did art. Anything that she wanted to do, we just did it, right? But I now, hindsight's 2020, and I think it is great to lay down some framework, some foundational things to get us started when we're thinking about entering into preschool or having a child. We know we have a younger sibling that is going to be starting her own or his own routine, and what that could look like and how we can really foster a learning environment for our children that best serves them. So my first one is evaluation. Preschool interest. I think it is interesting to see how our kids are so different. And with evaluation, I believe you need to, with your kids, you need to evaluate what they're doing, not necessarily test them in anything, literally just watch them as they already are and the things that they are interested in independently and individually. Not what they see their siblings do, not what they see you do, but truly what is something that they're really interested in and they naturally gravitate to. So with that, I am going to use my child as an example because that's where I can derive from. And I wrote some things down so that I know off the top of my head, without a shadow of a doubt, the things that she's interested in. And that is ballet, art, music, dressing up, imaginative play, and story time. Those are the things that Josephine at 3 years old right now is enjoying. This girl literally changes like 5 or 6 times a day. She's got outfits, y'all. So that's what she's interested in. Number 2, the next thing I do is preschool foundations. Okay, so I'm like, all right, what are the foundations of preschool? Well, we've got motor skills, we've got connecting, what is happening with the connectors in our brain to what is happening in our responses, our feelings, all of that. And then encompassing it in with foundations of just what we really want to introduce to our child in preschool. So you've got color, you've got alphabet letters, you've got numbers, and connecting all of those together, right? So I like to jot those down, some realistic things that are preschool foundations. And then number 3, I like to take those first 2, the evaluation and the preschool foundation, and then create integration. Oh yes, all these fancy words. But integration is important. I think that you have to recognize that your child loves to do certain things, as well as how do we integrate them with the things that they need to know in order to make the steps in their growing and learning productivity. So all that, how I do that for me. Now, I've told you guys on here, if you're not new and you've been with me for some time, you know that we are more of an eclectic homeschool environment. That means I like to pull from everything. And I can be very specific what those things are for my eldest, but for my youngest, I recognize that might not necessarily be very vast yet. Like we don't have different types of curriculums and styles of learning quite yet, because she's still developing what is it that she really enjoys, right? And what the things and how she understands them. So what I did in the beginning of this year is I started with Montessori style of learning. And if you are like, what? Who? Montessori style of learning is all about our child having the space to individually learn and grow and react and connect to the environment in a realistic way. And so that's what I do. I created stations in my home where while I'm doing school with our oldest daughter, she has space to pull from her own basket, create little work art stations where she can paint and draw and color, connect blocks, build things, all the above. And for the most part, especially the first half of the school year, it was great. It was like, okay, I got this. This is actually going to work. I can homeschool 2 kids at the same time. But like every toddler that we know, every 3-year-old, 4-year-old we know is just like one day they're excited and into that, and the next they're on to the next thing, and their brains are just going, right? So I started thinking about how can I create a routine, an unroutine of a routine, if you will. Recognizing that my child's not on any type of structural system. The only structure she has really is how we start our day and how we end our day, which is mostly just routining of like getting up, getting dressed, brushing our teeth, having breakfast. And then at the end of the day, it's time to wind down. That's bath, reading, and bed. So those are the only things that, she kind of knows that when it's that time. But when it comes to learning, I'm really liking the Montessori style of learning. I still love, but I'm starting to do some research and really having a fondness for Waldorf style of learning. And if you're like, okay, first she started with Montessori, now she's talking about Waldorf. Who's Waldorf? Well, Waldorf style of learning is very similar to Montessori in the sense of giving your child an open-ended space, right? Of learning, an invitation to learning. But the difference is Montessori is more of like realistic learning and real life learning, whereas Waldorf comes from a more of imaginative and a creative way of learning. And it starts from the time they're born all the way until they're no longer here on earth. And so I really love that. I love the core to what that is. And I actually got to sit with a really cool mama on a trip that I took, and we just started having this deep conversation about this style of learning as she's been doing it with her sons. And so I've really liked that concept. And so after that, I kind of just dove right in and started researching more and more about that, because if we remember what I was talking about in those level 1 and 2 was evaluating where your child is at, and then laying down the preschool foundations. We recognize that like my daughter is very imaginative, is very creative. She gravitates to visual and arts naturally, far more than anything would be to more intuitive learning or sitting and reading by herself. She's more independent of like, I'm going to twirl in the middle of the floor, whether I have a song in my head, you don't have to play anything type of way. And so I love this because it gives me an opportunity to meet my child where she's at and combine the two. So in a way, I'm still a collective style of learning, but I'm picking from 2 different styles, right? And that might be so countercultural to the world, but this is my homeschool. So this is what we doing. Okay, so I did those first 3, right? So then number 4 is now combining the 2 and building this routine out for my child. So how am I doing this? Like I said, we keep our morning time, we keep our end, but now I know the groundwork of who she is and what she's excited about. So now I create a space for that to happen. I create space for her to have little wooden peg dolls that she can create an entire story of. I create a space for her to have a dress up corner and to dress up and make believe. And while she's making up and being creative and imaginative of where she's at and who she is in her beautiful garments, I will talk to her about letters. I'll say, well, what does ballerina start with? And well, what color do you have on today? And so there's this connecting happening with those foundations that is not so sit at the table, connect the dots here, but more living it and being it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing that around our home. My home is pretty much almost overtaken by school. And I love that because it just means that there's learning happening here. There's a book station. There is corners where we can sit and build and create. And that's what we're doing with my child for preschool currently. So I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that you were able to take some tips from this. What have you been doing? If you already have a preschooler and you guys already got some sense of a routine down, how did you build it? What did you pull from? Leave all that in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. I am always open to learn. I thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Give this video a warm thumbs up if you enjoy it. And until next time, have a wonderful day.